that I'm going to present you right now, oh my God, they're wonderful. They're leaders, they're moms, they're everything that you will need to have in your house and in your enterprise. So let me introduce you to this Women International panel from Lima here, from Mexico, Argentina, and El Salvador, and East Planetarium Congress. Miss Nana Firman, Miss Maren Solbrosa, and Miss Nancy Schmiel. They will introduce themselves. So here you go. We're starting this Women International panel with women leadership in climate crisis. How are you, girls?
Great. Well, I'm well.
Miss Nana, please
Really
tell
good.
us who you are.
All right. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you for the invitation. So my name is Nana Firman, and I live in California. I'm originally from Indonesia. I'm the Green Faith Muslim Outreach Director and also the co-founder of Global Muslim Climate Network. So back home in Indonesia, previously I worked for the WWF, the World Wildlife Fund, trying to help on the reconstruction after the tsunami and earthquake, and to ensure that the rehabilitation and the recovery was done in the sustainable way, and also develop an urban climate change adaptation and mitigation initiative with religious leaders, mostly the Muslim leaders. And just today, this year, actually, I was very fortunate to be featured in this book called 20 Earth Defenders. It's called One Earth, People of Color Protecting Our Planet. And because now I live in the United States, I'm also co-directs the Islamic Society of North America Green Initiative. And thank you again for inviting me here. I'm looking forward to have this conversation with these amazing ladies.
Oh my God, thank you so much. That's awesome. Miss Maren Solbrosa, please, who you are.
Thank you so much for inviting me and having me here. It's an honor to be amongst such incredible and inspirational women, really. My name is Maran Solbrosa, and I've been involved with climate change awareness since I was a child, and traveled many years around the world and had a sort of macro micro view of the world, of what the natural system of which we are a part, and felt that in wanting to bring children into the world, I wanted to make sure that I was bringing them into a world I wanted to leave them in as well. So I researched for 12 years what is being done around the world, and I ended up with a very optimistic calculation, yet it needs our extra push. So being amongst people like you in an event like this, being global, planetary, and discussing environmental law, I feel humbled and honored to what feels to me be like a voice of nature, which is necessary and lacking. So I feel each of us and all of us are just that today. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Carrie. I look
Oh
forward
my
to
God,
this.
I love you so much. So you're amazing. You're extraordinary. You will see. But you're missing another fabulous, amazing women leader also from United States, Nancy Schmiel.
Hi, thank you so much, Carrie. I want to thank you for arranging this. This is just an honor, and I'm very humbled to be on this panel with these amazing women. First, I do want to say that I want to acknowledge that I'm coming to you from the tribal lands of the Swinomish tribe, which is in Washington State. And we are working hard to acknowledge that they have been stewards of this land since time immemorial. So I want to acknowledge that I'm coming to you from Coast Salish territory. Yes, I am now a full-time climate justice activist. I have been working at both our federal United States level as a congressional liaison for Citizens Climate Lobby, which we're trying to get the federal government to pass a bill that is about carbon dividend for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and it's a bipartisan effort. But I also have found that the most success we have is working at the local, hyper-local level at our both city and county and state levels, where we've had great fortune here in Washington State. I think a lot of it has to do with our beautiful natural environment. People are very aware of the climate crisis. So I've also been working on legislation here at the state level and at the county and city level through various organizations, including Climate Reality, Citizens Climate Lobby, and Sierra Club efforts to close a coal plant. So that's kind of where I'm at.
So I would say like, woohoo for climate reality girls. Like we are all climate reality girls here. So that's a plus for Mr. Al Gore, our mentor, the founder of Climate Reality Leadership Cups. So, oh girls, you're so amazing. I mean, do you hear yourselves when you introduce yourselves? This is so inspiring for every single girl that is listening to us right now, that there's hope, that we can change the world, that we cannot do it alone, that we are one, and that we have a lot of things, like a lot of falls, but we have a lot of victories also, right? Like,
Right.
What do you think about that?
Absolutely. And I guess if I could just jump in, I feel like I'm here on the coattails of so many other women that have been doing heroic things. And I feel like women are coming into the fore. We've always been supportive, but I think we're all natural caretakers and caregivers of this earth. And I just am amazed at the amount of support and sisterhood we all feel, connected immediately at the heart level. It chokes me up.
Right. So what about you?
I second what Nancy said, and I would also like to point out that it's something intergenerational that feels is happening right now, let alone this conversation and wanting to speak about also the younger women coming up and youth at large, speaking for equality in every sense of the word. And as we're here to address environmental law, I like to think of environment not only as the air we breathe and the plants and the water and the trees, but rather the environment between us. And that too, having a climate crisis. And so I think now is the time for people to walk our talk and to be examples and to inspire more and more people using every tool we can. So I'm very honored to be here. I agree with Nancy about this sisterhood and learning how to live together harmoniously.
And let me ask you something, Nana, just give me 1 second. I want to ask this. Like, I am so thrilled to ask you this. You know that Mr. Trump right now had a peace deal with Israel and with United Emirates and with United States. And what do you think about that? I mean, it's obvious that climate change did not go there. I mean, he's a denier of that. So what do you think like that is for? I mean, can we make a peace treatment when the climate crisis is so bad and there's no environmental justice, there's no environmental policies worldwide taken? I mean, why are they so in the peace treatment when there's no justice? I mean, you can not have peace when no justice is before. So what do you think about that?
Well, like they said, it's no peace. I mean, no justice, like no peace, no justice. So, like how could we have justice and peace when everything is still like, we're facing this ecological crisis, climate change, and like because of also like our historical history in this world. And like we just like see in just the recent what's happening in the United States and also like across the globe with this pandemic, that like first we're facing this pandemic, the coronavirus, and it's just spread all over the place. And then like on top of that, we have this racial justice issue, this inequality issues, and on top of that is it's like we're still facing the climate crisis. So like I think like it's a little bit premature to kind of like force this at the moment, like the peace deal, what they call it, but then we're not addressing any other issues. It should be like addressing other issue as well on top of like of course we want the peace in this world, but then how about those other crises? How could people like be peace when they cannot even have access to like healthy food or clean air or fresh air? So that's kind of like premature, I think, at the moment. But, you know, like, I think like we also need to take this opportunity, like this moment of all these crises that we're facing at the moment around the world. I think like I recently, I'm sure like you all also like see this picture where they have waves that first like small waves is COVID-19, and then the recession, the economic recession, and then after that climate change. And after that, a big one is the biodiversity collapse, which is going to be affecting all of us around the world. So I think we need to really take this time seriously.
Moran, what do you think about that? I love your I love your theory for the peace treatment. Please, I want everybody to know that. Um,
Well, Carrie, I dedicate my life to unity and sustainability, and I believe they go together. And I do see, I'm fourth generation peace advocates in my family. I've grown up with people of all colors, creeds, and classes. Some of my closest friends and brothers and sisters are Palestinian. I was born in Israel, raised in America, and I've come back to the Middle East to place myself strategically in order to make change from within with the perspective of the outside. And having grown up in America, in a different America than we might be seeing today, where we encouraged community service, where we encouraged being good and kind, and thinking of the other was really something they nurtured in us. And I can tell you on the ground that actually the majority of all of us on all sides actually want peace and quiet. And peace means to be whole. It means be whole within yourself. And we are one. We are all connected. So I believe that, Nana, everything you said, I agree. How can you fight for climate change when you don't have food to eat? I completely understand. And even understand from identification, not necessarily privilege. However, I believe that the answer is unity, that we must come together. We must bring a critical mass, and we are the next generation of the Middle East. So Trump or no Trump, besides, I can tell you that on the ground, for us living in the Middle East, you'd think they'd give us a little bit of a heads up that this was about to happen. This has been worked on since the Camp David Accords in the 90s with Rabin and Arafat. It took this long to get it, but actually, if you ask me, it's actually not good for climate change because a lot of it is around a business deal over petroleum, and I'm saying this with a heavy heart. But I think this is where our generation doesn't mean what year you were born in. It's whoever is alive right here, right now. We have a small window of time, and we can take advantage of the peace treaty and actually make it a real peace treaty because it's about the people. We don't have to wait for our governments to make peace. We are already working together. Look at this panel alone. Today we can use technology to connect us and to inspire each other, to exchange our resources, knowledge, and wisdom, and make it multiply and amplify it. In the Middle East, I believe the next generation is here and about to take more and more leadership roles in any field that it is. It's ageless. And I think the dawn of that day has arrived already.
So thank you, Mara. So what about religion? I mean, Anna, I know that you have the Climate Muslim Network and regarding women. And Nancy, in the United States, like Christians have a great network there for climate change and environmental guardians of the earth, like the Bible says that. So what about religion? Like, I mean, there's so much power in men in positions of governmental positions in the power of the world. Like everybody in the world is like talking about this peace treatment, and we're having a pandemic here, an environmental crisis worldwide, and religion, like it's a huge like protest there, right? Like what about that? What about Christians, Muslims? I mean, I know that their faith is like literally different, but there's one God. I mean, the only one that created earth, the only one that created nature, that created us. We are God's image. So there's one God and he is ruling. So what about that?
So if I can address that first. So, according to the Pew Research, almost 85% of the world population consider themselves as people of faith, whatever faith you identify. But that's powerful. 85% of the world population, that's a lot. And somehow when we talk about this crisis, the ecological crisis, the climate crisis, we often like hear from the description, and or being presented as the scientific issues or economic issue or even political issue, but hardly we hear more.
Okay,
Right?
Nana,
So I think like we need to kind of lift up like all the teachings from all wonderful faiths and religions around the world to all religions that I'm with. They all want to protect the earth. They all agree that we need to have like good environment for us, for our children, for the next future generations. So I think like we need to lift this up, that it is also our responsibility as the stewards. I think like all religion like consider a human as stewards upon this earth. So then we need to take care of it, not to destroy it, not to like pollute it, but live in harmony with that. So I think like it's very it's an important like venue that we haven't really cultivate. And I'm sure Nancy and Saul can share also from their perspective.
Yes, Nancy, what do you think about this? I mean, there's one God, we are God's image, and there's one earth, and He's ruling, and everybody's talking, but He's watching us. And I think that women have a great role here. We are the ones that are moms. We are the ones that lead our homes. We are the ones that lead our bodies also. So what about that? Like, what do you think about the leadership in women in climate crisis at home? I mean, how's being like a wife, a mom, an activist also? And how do you do it?
Well, thanks. That's a great question. So many women I know are juggling so many different things, but I think, well, like my fellow panelists were mentioning, I think a lot of it has to do with the interconnection of all of this. Your values, and women as caretakers are very aware of the values in the home and outside the home with Mother Nature. I think the women that I know mostly have support, at least in the values, but I do have some friends that have trouble with their home life, not necessarily agreeing that it's important to steward the earth and to protect your family that way. And what they tend to do is, again, they connect with other women that have values. Even if you're living in an isolated situation, you have to find ways to connect and get the support that you need, and even have self-care to make sure that you are strong enough to deal with all of these. We have so many crises coming together, and especially in the United States with the election coming up, it feels like things are building to a crescendo, a major shift. And most of us are hoping and praying for the right direction. But there are so many crises that are happening at the same time that self-care and getting the support that you need and taking the time to find that center is essential for moving forward.
So, Moran, can you tell us, please? I am so delightful by B1. I want to hear about that. I want to hear about what you're doing there. I mean, I saw your page. It's amazing. So please, I want to hear about that.
Well, it's a perfect continuation to what Nancy said, because the whole project is based on values, and it starts with our choice. If you break down every moment, we have a choice whether I speak with my hands or I don't, whether I realize it or not, what that means to different people, and then play chess in your mind. Play it out. What would be the impact of this choice versus that choice? And then take responsibility for that choice. And this is the part where we're a little bit disconnected. So the values are: respect yourself, others, and life. It all starts with our internal experience and how we process what we're experiencing, and then how I'm a part of more humans who are experiencing it, because humans are social creatures. We will always and have always lived in communities, and I think 99, if not 100% of human stories of them living by themselves, it's not enough to speak to nature. We need more humans to survive for the construct of our psyche. And then, of course, we're part of something much larger. So it's constantly having this macro, micro view and understanding that every choice we make of what we do and what we say has an impact not only on myself, but on everyone and everything, and vice versa. So I think our hope is in raising awareness to that. B and B1 is an invitation to really join if you connect to these things, so that we can actually, it's a niche almost, okay? It's really collecting the resources together. There are various ways that each one of us learns, and the best way to learn is through experience, and the best we can do is to inspire. You know, you can take the horse to water. So everything that it has to do with is raising awareness generally, and then raising your own awareness, and then implementing into our lives. There are so many tools out there. There are educational tools for all ages of all different kinds, and there are actual tools that are out there already. People have been developing sustainable solutions and alternative products across the board. There's a plethora. As a matter of fact, a few years ago, I decided I dropped the pen on research and development, because from when I started until when I decided, okay, there's enough, it was becoming exponential. So now I'd say, to say the least, it's going to grow even more so, and even more so with COVID, because now I think people are maybe re-evaluating their lives, everything about our lives, and putting a new value on everything in our lives, be it relationships with ourselves, with one another, with everything. So I think that sustainability is the ability to sustain, and you first give yourself oxygen. Once you can sustain yourself, then go and offer the oxygen. But there are so many people doing so many good things, and can really, it's like there's a whole toolbox out there. We just need to spread it to more people. And that's nothing more than a question of participation and sharing. Sharing online, sharing true information. Keep your eye on the truth. Get your sources vouched for, and then don't just take anything for granted at all. Not food, not a drop of water, not a roof over your head, and not the information you
Well,
read.
you know what? That's a perfect point for what I was going to ask everybody. Like, I was thinking while Martin was speaking. We are women. We have a lot of roles everywhere at home, with ourselves in society. And how can a woman that leaders climate, and a woman that leaders everything in your life, can have self-care? You know that we are the earth also. Like, God make every human being from the earth. We have actually in our epidermis, in our skin, in our body, 19 nutrients from the earth. So believe it or not, that's scientific, tested, and fact. So how can we protect ourselves and have self-care of ourselves, so what we can protect the earth? If we are not valuable for ourselves, we cannot do it for others. I mean, so how can we women leading others, and leading girls and leading boys to this environmental crisis that is beginning a long time ago, and now we are like hitting to another pandemic, maybe, or not, God please no. And we are, during this pandemic, we are not hitting back, or we are not like bettering the pandemic. I mean, yesterday I have a live stream where Iraq, you saw it, Mora, and I give you the photo where the earth in Iraq was better before the human lockdown. And now, like, it was like really, really, really clean. I mean, God is like, he locked down the human beings and better the earth, and better like every single country in all the continents. And it's weird. Like, are we leading with responsibility? Are we leading like as God's image. Like God rules the earth. Are we ruling the earth and being guardians of the earth like God is doing or did before we are humans in the earth? You know, what about that?
First, you want to go? So, like the picture that you sent is in Iraq is very interesting because we see those kind of pictures also in other parts of the world. I think I got one from New Delhi, where it's like before it's a lot of pollution, you cannot even see anything, but now you could. And also like from where I'm from in Jakarta, it's a lot of pollution because of this pandemic that suddenly it's like the air is so clean, so
Oh my God.
clear, like like the sky like so blue.
Oh my God,
So
girls, oh my
yes,
God.
yeah, and then people start like taking pictures. They said no filter, no filter. So,
Oh my
but I
God.
mean, like like my, I mean, like I stopped there because then I like reflect that do we need a pandemic like this to actually
Mhm.
remind us that we
Mhm.
have this wonderful earth that we've been like trashing all this time. I think I think like like this moment we should like like do some kind of like reflection, like be the like in ourself like Moran said, but also like like as a society, like collectively, that what have we done what have we done to the earth, like suddenly we stop because of the pandemic. Look, like suddenly like the birds are coming and all the insects are coming, and like we've lost those like wonderful things because of what we've done previously. So probably this is like being mentioned, this is the time for us to rethink and like how we see our like our relationship to each other, and also like with ourselves, and then how can we move forward, not to destroy the earth, but like be in harmony with it and enjoy like the beauty of it and enjoy each other.
Nancy?
Yeah, that's a really, I agree with you 100%. What I've noticed, especially in the United States, where everything was always go, 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 hurry, 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 book yourself so much that you hardly have a time to take a breath. And now suddenly it's been a complete reset for many of us. A lot of people are working from home. They're spending more time with their kids because they're forced to, but that can be a good thing. So I really feel like you're saying, that this is a time for potential huge shifts in how people are looking at their lives and what's going on in the world, along with the change in pollution and the cleaner air and the noticing of the birds. This is just an amazing time with a lot of potential. So I like to look at the hopeful aspect of this, even though it's a tragedy for so many. There can be something good that comes from this.
Right. Moran?
I agree 100%. And what I really enjoy the metaphors that have come out of Corona. We're in this together. We're in the same boat. There's something very humbling, whether you like it or not. I feel that there, I can't imagine there being any human being who wasn't grounded by this in one way or another. And I think that, whatever you call whatever created us and brings us, created life here. I think that this kind of forced it right in our faces. And if, I think it was Thomas L. Friedman, perhaps in the 90s, who kind of coined the global community and, foresaw it, which of course he wasn't the only one, but I think, we have many, many, many issues. We've had many issues. We've done a lot of work to get to where we are today. We're some of the freest people in the history of humanity, and we are some of the wealthiest people, even though we have such distance between statuses. But we've got Corona that makes us equal. That's just something we can actually use to, in a way, unite us. And we've also got one more issue that I do think is super relevant to the environmental law that brings us together to this panel right now, which is the the edge of the sword, a small window of time that we have right now, really, with before and after a tipping point for humanity to even have the conditions we need, and how difficult it is to kind of shake it up and wake up and administer the information, the facts that are out there. Like, for example, we have 5% left of the Amazon rainforest that we are allowed to keep deforesting and burning and whatnot before it goes out of tipping point. And that specifically is immediate. And it's also really difficult to get the word out on anything other than Corona or upcoming elections, or, you know, if the peace treaty wasn't big enough. I mean, even a lot of people didn't even hear about the peace treaty. And that's enormous for it, peace in the Middle East. You know, so it's just an example, not only because I'm here, but my friends didn't even know that was happening. So it just goes to show that now I think we're becoming more a global community.
What about women leadership in, I mean, I was listening to you more and I was thinking like, you know what? Yeah, I mean, I've seen the peace treatment because I watch news like an activist. I watch every single news that's going there, like from every single country for environmental politics or anything. Um, and you know that what? Like we are protesting everywhere. Women are leading a lot of roles, a lot of positions, and we are saying, hey, we have a voice. Hey, we are the ones that have the children, that educate the children. We are the ones that educating our husbands, I mean, our friends. We are the ones leading, like every single step that we do, we lead. From the moment we are up, we wake up in the morning, we are leading ourselves to be better every single day. Like we are activists and we have to be example to others. So I think that maybe this pandemic is like lead, like not being ourselves to the others, to see others what we are not, but we lead by example. You know, we lead by our voices, by doing things, by speaking and doing our work and doing the activism and saying, hey, we're here, you are in a position of power, what we, you cannot like change my voice or silence my voice. We are here for everybody. And I think that women tend to be divisions like with everyone else. You know, women are like not empowering one another. We are like having like competence with one another, or being like, oh wow, I'm better than you, or I am here or you are not. And I think we are such a power. I mean, God gave us the all the power to have children, to do every single multitasking that we have. I mean, how many tasks do you do in a day? I just let's ice break here. How many tasks do you do in a day? I do a lot. I mean, I'm exhausted. What about you, Nana, Nancy, Maren? How many?
Yeah, of course, like any other woman, like we are almost multitasking, like doing things, like at the same times, like preparing for these things, but I'm still like, like making my coffee and then like, oh, okay, breakfast, where is it? So it's, it's like sometimes I think like it's bizarre, but,
Right?
but we do it, right? We do it.
Right, Nancy?
Yes. Well, I'm in the same boat. Yes. Sometimes I make a to-do list, but if it's too long of a to-do list, it brings me down. So I don't even make a to-do list sometimes. But yeah, agreed. Women are
Maren?
jugglers, multitaskers.
Right? And Maren?
I happen to be a chef, so I work with men who multitask very, very well.
Wow.
That's one thing. And I definitely believe that, if we are first of all, I believe that we are born leaders, not just females, humans. We all have leadership within us, and it's a skill that can be honed. Not everyone has the courage or the guidance to find that within themselves. So whether you're 3 years old or 83 years old, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you can be a leader and inspire everyone around you. And especially if you have a professional role with responsibilities, you can absolutely top down, wherever you are, make a change, make a difference, lead the way. And if you don't know how, ask. There are people out there who can come and give advice, and there's more and more consultancy these days. But more than anything, I think it takes a village. It takes a village, not just to raise a child, but to co-curate that world we want to see. If you don't want to see competition, don't be competitive, but work on it within yourself, because we were trained to compete. We were taught, it was passed down, and I don't blame our ancestors. I just say, let me take responsibility now. I'm here for what I do with my time here. And mainly it's share. And again, I say about the Amazon, because the indigenous are really suffering right now on multiple fronts. I say it takes a village, because we need the whole world to really hear this call and to understand the seriousness. Even though we have corona, that's extremely serious, there's one thing that's above it right now that's relevant to every single human being, and that's why the environmental law that you're talking about, I mean, there's an organization that's working on adding a human right to a clean environment, which would really help us start to come closer to reach the SDGs and the 2030 goals and the Paris Accord, agreements. So there's a lot of investment that many people have put in place, but now we really have to make good on our word.
Right. And
Yeah.
what about Israel? How's there? Like with all this treatment, what about the climate change there, the environmental crisis there? We don't know so much about Israel. We know a lot of the news about United States and other countries, but Israel is not a news just for the peace treatment with Trump. But I mean, Israel, we don't know nothing about Israel, like the environmental crisis there. What about the environmental policies? I mean,
you're right. Even socially, you're not aware of how wonderful life is actually here, and really that we all live. Actually, we do live together peacefully, but that's another story. As for climate change, I can tell you there are many, many movements here. I alone am connected to at least 40 or more movements. There's EcoPeace that works around water with the surrounding countries, and does education and workshops in order to bridge and do nonviolent communication so that we can learn to live together and understand how to share the resources. There are many things going on here. And at the same time, it's a young country, 75 years old, relatively, everyone still came from so many countries around the entire planet speaking different languages. It's only about, 3 generations in. There's a lot of, again, awareness, and there's a lot of fear that was in our global collective culture, I think. And we're breaking the cycle, all of us. I think that's where, we may have come from Africa separated and didn't recognize each other when we saw each other again in different colors and,
Yes.
shades. But now, again, I think that the more we pass it on, and if each of us has children or other people we inspire, then the number will multiply. And I really think the power is in our hands, and literally even with phones now in our hands.
of course. I mean,
Well,
Nancy,
Israel,
yeah, sorry.
to wrap up the Israel climate thing, sorry, but I can tell you that in green technology, in agricultural business, water technology, because we have a small country with many people, we're in survival mode and really just needed to figure things out. There's a lot of synchronicities that brought us to innovation, but in terms of irrigating the desert, we've developed technology for how to, manage our water resources and also different ecosystems. There are 5 ecosystems. There's, in technology at large, there's a lot of leadership from Israel. We're doing what we can.
You see, we don't know those things. I don't know why Israel is not in the news. Like it's like locked down from the news or something. I mean, it's incredible. And Nancy, the United States, there's a lot of a lot of healing to do for the environmental injustice that is there. Not just like injustice that is there, and racism is one of them. And what about I remember that in North Carolina, if I please correct me, the all the Protestants there that were killed, 500 Protestants there, like a long time ago, for the Standing Rock, the Sikh tribe. Yeah, what about that? What about the pipeline? I mean, any restrictions there, or like with Trump administration is very bad, right? But I mean, what about Biden? Do you think that Biden's gonna have an environmental policy maker making the good?
Definitely. And his plan is not, Biden's plan is not necessarily the one that every environmentalist adheres to, but it's a great starting point. I mean, especially compared to the devastation and all of the changes that Trump has gotten rid of, so many regulations. So that's why we're all so hopeful that this election will bring about a major shift in that. But we'll have work to do no matter who is in office.
Right.
And that's where we all, like we've been saying, we need to unify. We need to work together. And I've heard some things that triggered ideas, things like mentors. We need to find our mentors. We need to be a mentor across generations. We need to, like we were saying earlier, have self-care. And what I see when I am working with different environmental groups, I see that people, it's almost like the snow geese in our valley here that fly in a V formation, and then occasionally the lead goes to the back. Well, sometimes people that are involved in this massive existential movement need to just say, okay, I've got to take a step back. You have to be aware of when you've got too much on your plate, too much bringing you down. Take time out, say no, and have someone else step up. And we all need to be aware of the people around us and make sure that we are aware when someone is taking on too much, and say, why don't you I'll take this on for you. Come back when you're rested. We need to be sure that we're doing that, because the fight is not going to be over for a long time. We need to maintain and persist and keep going forward, but take care of ourselves and each other.
Right, you're so right. I was thinking like the best leaders in the world, like a long time ago, Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, Mandela, the most popular ones, even in the Quran, even in Christianity, in every prophet. I mean, the Quran, you have Muhammad, right? Okay, in
Yes.
Christianity, I mean, there were like always volunteers. I always say this. I mean, to be a leader, as Moran said, we are born leaders, and we are born to serve, not to be served. Like every single leader was born to serve others, not to be served. So first we have to be volunteering ourselves for the other, taking self-care of ourselves, so we can protect all we have around us. So when we have like the volunteerism in our hearts to be leaders for the others, I think there's gonna be a change. And in my perspective, I don't know you girls, but in my perspective, it's like women are so vulnerable, and their hearts, by being mothers, or being so like God make us so vulnerable with emotions and hormones everywhere. Like, aren't we the ones that have to educate inclusive men, like right now in this pandemic and this crisis, educate everybody that we have a voice here to say, hey, you are not the center of the earth right now. There's everybody, we are one. So what about that?
So, Carrie, if I can jump in on that. So, like, I did this like last year. There is like a symposium that I was presenting the role of women in environmental protections. Like, so that's the topic that I was given, and I was like just doing like like little research and here and there, and then I found that in traditional community around the world, women manage water, the sources for fuel, for food, as well as they're like they're managing the forest and agriculture like area. So like Moran said, like about forest. I mean, I see touch it about like the Amazon forest, that is really like sad, like if like because that's our lung. And in many parts of the world, women it's also act as an immense force of social change, because they're the one who's directing the family values, the lifestyle, the consumption habits at home. So they're like they're creating, if like a new generation, if we want to like like if we are allowed to say that. So then like if we lift up the women, then certainly we're going to benefit the entire communities, the entire society. So I think this is very important that we also lift up like women and also, of course, like self-care, like Nancy said, that's very important, because we don't want to be burned out, like, because women already, like already multitasking, like so many things to do. So, but I mean, like, but traditionally, like, like based on my research, like those are like the traits on women in many traditional societies. So I think we need to lift that up in, like, and look at it in our society today. So translate it into to be applicable in our lives today, especially during this very important time.
Nancy?
Well, I do want to add, I do feel like in the United States, at least, the gender roles are shifting. And I don't think it's always the traditional male contrast to the female. I think we've seen that quite a bit in just different roles that men are taking on and that women are stepping forward in. The fact that Biden chose a female vice president is a great move and a great step forward. And it's a kind of a good indicator of how we're all in this together more, and everyone appreciates the good qualities in others, whether they're male or female. And I guess I feel like men are also more free to express their emotions and allow women to do the same. I just feel like that's a shift that's happened in the United States. So I think it's important to point that out.
Moran?
Yes, Nancy, you took the words out of my mouth. I think it depends where you are in the world, and and it's we're in, like, there's waves, so the wave is rippling out, and it's reaching different stages at different moments, and I do think that it is really closest to our values, if we want to walk our talk, to also refer to equality between just human to human. And so, Nancy, I completely agree with you. And I definitely believe in empowering men and empowering women from youth. There are many men who feel they want to connect to their emotions and express them, but society is also challenging in that way. So I don't think this is a one-way street. I definitely think we needed what we did, and there was definitely I don't know how many generations before women got to vote, before, women got to sit at the table. Lean In had a lot to do with it. Me Too did a lot for it. But I think that at the end of the day, it goes both ways, and that definitely deserves a seat at the table, that it goes both ways. And I just wanted to conclude, like your question, Carrie, before about why you don't hear about Israel. And I think Israel gets a pretty bad name, but I'll take the opportunity to say that our government does not represent us, and that many people are really surprised when they do come here, and it's not what CNN shows per se.
Nothing. Let me say this: nothing is what CNN shows. People, CNN, I don't know what they do to the news. That is nothing like that. Like, I don't know. Yeah, continue.
No, we're being the news. See, you're creating the news. We're creating the news. We just need to share it far and wide, and share it to our networks, and get used to sharing more and more in every way. And so, back to it takes a tribe. I think, men also multitask. A lot of them do. And there are a lot of things we don't hear. We don't read minds. That's a big thing. And so we might juggle a lot, but I think, it's also a lot of credit to just everyone for doing whatever they're doing. And maybe we've gone a little too far from one another and from nature. And we need to find the just right, the Goldilocks, just like Earth to the sun. And I think that's like, okay, we've become a little bit greedy. When is enough enough? When you have more than enough, share it, pass it. And there's going to be abundance once we do that. And like, last but not least for me on this thought is the sweet spot is that our power is in our voice and in our choice. And that's where I think we can take, from here moving forward, to be an example, whoever we are, wherever we are, and find the people who we are like-minded and want to share values and connect connect more. Right now we need to connect more virtually, but hopefully that'll be a key to connecting as soon as we can, and hopefully we'll run to each other and we'll, find enough of us so that we can just most easily spiral it out. And I really think our voices and our choices are critical right now, and in many ways.
Totally, I agree. And you know what? I think that there's power in serving others. There's power in leading others without any position, without any power, without any money, without anyone telling you, hey, you have to be here. There's power in voice, there's power in a heart that is looking for the others and not ourselves. So if you can imagine that the earth give us the plants, give us the animals, the earth, like the animals have the food from the earth. Like in every single religion says in the Quran, in the Talmud, in the Tanakh, in the Christian Bible, I mean, in the Catholic Bible, in every religion says that God created the earth with plants, with vegetables, with fruits, and the animals have that to feed themselves. So the green agriculture that we are staying, like today, the green agriculture is like a popular thing, a popular speech to make. But are we doing that? I mean, how many of our leadership as women's are being examples in ourselves, taking care of everything around us? We have a lot of things, a lot of positions, a lot of everything, but in the simple details, I think there's a difference. In the simple details of a voice that says, hey, I am watching over you. You are perfect. You are lovely. You can do this. You can make it. Encourage others and empower others to be what God created them to be. I think God created all of us to be awesome, to shine in every single part of our leadership as women. So nobody has to come here and says the other way around, right? What do you think about that, Nana?
Yeah, I think like this is the importance where we lift up each other. I think that Nancy and Moran already mentioned about that earlier, that, this is very important. And also, I think to recognize who are the marginalized in our community, in our society, and we need to lift their voices as well. That, and then also like giving the chance for them to take the lead as well. And as Moran mentioned about the Amazon forest, I was born in the rainforest as well, in Sumatra, in Indonesia. So I'm always like having this connection with the rainforest and the people, the indigenous people, the traditional people that live in the forest. And if we see like what happened to the rainforest right now, it's very devastated. So and at the same time, with this climate crisis, I see that like the power of our forests as the natural solution to our crisis. And I think like sometimes we overlooked it because we're so busy to other like solutions. But then there, like you said, Carrie, like God gave this earth for us. So like the plants, like the trees that actually absorb the carbon dioxide and produce oxygen. That's like a powerful machine there. So like the rainforest is actually the powerful machine, but yet we destroy them. So, and then we don't lift up the indigenous people, the traditional communities that who are the caretaker of this, like this wonderful forest. So I think like I wanted to also like propose that we like giving the indigenous people and traditional communities more rights in protect and manage the forest that they've been living like for generations. And because we all need this rainforest as the lung of this planet. If it's gone, then we're going to have like worse than the COVID-19. So I think like that's like lifting those who are also have no voice, and like be like who has been marginalized for sometimes.
Thank you, Moran.
I 100% echo what Nana said, and thank you for raising the marginalized. And I think also in today's day and age, perhaps each of us can identify with some level of being marginalized in one way or another, whether you were bullied as a child, whether you are, whether it's religious or skin color or, all these other things, learning to live in this world is a journey in itself. Not everybody finds their way as it is. So I think, empathy is what a lot of us talk about these days. Compassion, putting yourself in the shoes of others really is a great tool to think of solutions and choices. And I feel that we can learn from history. I think it's time to listen as well, not just talk. Sometimes just listening is really, really enlightening. It can, whether you're having a conversation with a friend who needs an ear, and you don't always need to come with solutions or with, consulting, but as a metaphor as well, right now with COVID, we're like, let's just listen for a minute and try and, think for a moment, which we were doing less of. And I kind of think, I tell myself, we're in transition. We can't wake up tomorrow overnight and reach our goal of, bringing the Garden of Eden back to Earth.
Light.
Yeah, I think we're in a rite of passage, and we need to kind of mature on a more global scale and start earlier to bring that awareness and be the gardeners and be the guardians and be positive. I think that's a medicine in itself.
Totally. Nancy?
Yeah, it's so wonderful to be able to talk about these things. I'm an example of the white privilege of the United States in the global north, where we are just now learning about the life of the marginalized, the people that tend to have all of the bad effects of our lifestyle. So we are in a process and in transition, as you say, in the United States, those of us that are still having to learn about how what we have always consumed and assumed to be our right is not good for everyone. And I think we also need to learn as part of this to step back and look and listen to the indigenous and the marginalized communities for what their life is like and what we can do and how we can lift them up or support them from behind. And it's a process for many of us that have never had to think this way before. We've just taken everything for granted. So it is a time of transition. And in some ways, as we've said before, this pandemic it's hard to say it's a blessing, but it is bringing about a change and a shift that I hope will last and change things going into the future for good and forever.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
time is up.
If I can just add, like I think Moran mentioned it, like to highlight what Nancy said.
Nana, we are going.
Oh, we are.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All
So we're
right.
going to have another one here because this is amazing. We're having a lot of questions that I cannot make. So we are having a second WIBA panel, international panel people here. So just be awake for that because this the first one was like this. The second one is going to be awesome. Thank you, Nana. Thank you, Maren. Thank you, Nancy. I am so honored here for being you with me right now here in this panel. So I welcome you to the next panel in a couple of hours. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you, Moran. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Mary.
Just to know, we have a woman here. Tere, where are you, Teresa? We have a women here technician in our Zoom virtual.
Oh, wow. So cool.
Power.
Hi.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for making Thank you all for making it possible.
Thank you, ladies. Love you.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
love you. Thank you. Gracias. Bye now.
Thank you, Nana. Thank you, Murat.
Thank you, Moran. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.